it's 5.
It's already gone.
Man, that was quick. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Train Out. You are joined by everyone's favourite CurryKitten.
Hello, sorry about the hair, it's gone weird.
The man with the moustache and the bokeh effect.
Hello. Shiny new lens.
And I am the Kit Kat inserter. Hello and welcome.
Twisted Kit Kat
You
inserter.
You don't want to see the
That goes
picture we've
without
just
saying,
had
really.
shared. Yeah.
Well, under YouTube's guidance, you can't show it.
They specifically
the-
call that out in the guidance. Then that's good to know. They've been very thorough indeed.
The problem is if you start going to events and being like, "Show us the Kit Kat photo," and then you're just like, "I'm gonna be like, no."
It's spread.
I know. Yeah. I don't know whether you want to elaborate.
Yeah, that's just not. Let's just.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
It's just.
Jack put a kick up his bum and took a photo.
Well, you said not elaborate, but sure. Okay, come on, come at us, YouTube.
You laughed the hardest, definitely.
I definitely need some sort of helpline to suffer this sort of abuse.
If this
I'm
was
a bit scarred.
was a work environment, we'd all be in for
Oh, but
lots
it's a
of
HR
payouts right
nightmare.
now. Yeah.
It's definitely a Me Too situation.
I no. Stephen, you could stick up for me on this. I did ask.
Yeah, I mean, it was a voluntary viewing of the offending article. I'm not sure how it makes it any. Was it chunky? Was it nutty?
I warned you. I said you're drinking the Tesla beer. I sent. The
It's revenge for
video.
the Tesla beer, is it?
How
Yeah,
many fingers, Jack? Out of
It
interest.
was 4. 4.
There
I
you
could
are.
only see one finger clearly. The rest had disappeared behind the veil.
It was not a chunky. I'm not that brave. Got issues.
Right, something FPV.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That's
That
true.
thing.
We do that, don't we?
I
Yeah.
watched Curry's video on the HD0 goggles.
Very thorough it was too.
Yes.
Did you watch the follow-up, which came out yesterday about the little quad?
No.
Little quad that could.
Okay. Yeah.
What
I took the
happened?
little quad. I think I did that on. I maybe flew that Friday. I went out down the woods with the little Mob Light 7, which was quite powerful for a 1S. I found it quite tricky indoors. I had to bring all the throttle limit down and set a bit of a throttle curve. But outside in the woods, it's quite good fun. And I was interested to see how it did just by normal route of like zipping in and out of the trees. Nothing too heavy, but it was okay. It was like normal HD0. Look, sparkles to keep you amused whilst you're flying around, but it wasn't too heavy. And it
Yeah, you got some pretty good results there.
it got some pretty good range. I thought a little SPI ILA receiver does a really good job these days. I remember the olden days of the SPI based stuff, which was FreeSky. I could just about get downstairs before it would just go.
I had one
fall out
occasion
the
where I
sky.
went to the park to fly one of those SPI FreeSky receivers, and I flew behind myself, like 6 foot behind myself, and it failed safe because I was between the radio and the quad. That's how far.
Yeah,
I
that's
got.
happened to me before. They're awful, weren't they? But yeah, they work brilliantly for these little quads, especially because if you look at the flight control, obviously it's an all-in-one flight controller, ESC board and stuff, and there's just got this tiny little HT0 thing on top. You've still got extra space, believe it or not, on that tiny quad. So the fact you can build something that small is crazy.
That's good news
Crazy.
for these.
What did you think of the goggles, Jack?
Yeah, all right. Like no problem. Very tempting. You know, it's nice to have everything all in one package. Very versatile. I liked you using your microphone for the voiceover. I thought that was pretty good.
That was really good quality.
the one thing I don't like about it is the sort of like analog, like slipped on sort of like module. It doesn't really sort of like fit the the Fat Shark cover over it or whatnot. I kind of prefer it if it had its own like little enclosure for.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit like a limp
would be
on the
good.
side.
It's a bit of a
Yeah.
chunk, isn't it? It's quite
Yeah.
funny when you put all the antennas on though, because it's like 6 antennas. I just look like this weird horned thing. It's quite fun.
Yeah. They look like they protrude quite far. I mean, I've had a go of them from Chris G. So I quite like the dioptic adjustment. It means that then you don't have to go out and get diopters unless obviously your eyesight's that bad. It's just hard to know what to go with, really, because like even if I had the money right now, I still wouldn't buy a HD anything HD because obviously we're now entering winter, so I won't be. None of us are going to be flying.
The upgrade cycle on these things is still quite aggressive. So in another 2 years, there'll be one that'll kind of make you regret that decision. It's not going to last forever.
There always is. And Walksnail have just bringing something out that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
That looks like a pair of goggles.
It says October, so that's all we know, I guess.
Yeah. I just, like this year, I think, I don't know. I think it's just been a particularly bad year. We had a late summer. Excuses. But, I think late summer, a lot of my friends were like busy with like other things and really sort of, and I'm a little bit worried that like, people have like stopped inviting me because I've, not sort of like gone out much, and we as LDO haven't like met up. I can faintly hear myself. I don't know whether anyone else can do that. I guess
just the voices in your head, mate.
Yeah, it's like faintly repeating. Yeah, so I don't really know where I am because like I met up with Frank. Even Frank was like, "Oh, I'm thinking maybe next year because we are entering winter," and he's like, "Yeah, I'll probably buy something then, ready for the sort of like new FPV year." But yeah, I'm still not 100% like sold, and also I think, yeah, you can get the Walksnail module and put it on the front of it, but then
it's big.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a chunker in there.
But like some sort of counterweight on your head to stop it being too heavy.
Yeah.
We've been used to kind of Sky Zone and Fat Shark, vendors who've been around for a number of years, and the products that they put out, they're up to kind of V4, V5. All the weird little things that didn't quite work have been fixed. HD0 and Walksnail are both essentially doing V1 products. They may have got hand from Fat Shark, but they're essentially a V1 product. And so a lot of the things that people don't like, where's my input for the Walksnail goggles? And on the HD0 goggles, like, why have I got a barnacle on the side of my goggles for an analog module that everyone knew I was going to want as well as these goggles? Like, why isn't it integrated? All that stuff it feels like it's going to be fixed in V2 or V3, but we're not quite there yet. So it's kind of that early adopter pain, like if you're buying a CD player in like the early 80s and you ended up with something that was the size of a dishwasher and like required vibration isolating feet and things, and you're going to have to live through a bit of that pain if you buy digital goggles now, unless you just suck it up and buy DJI and say, take all of my money, do with it as you will, I love you DJI, you can do no wrong. If you want something that isn't DJI, then you're going to have to put up with a bit of growing pain.
Yeah, I don't really want to end up in that sort of like DJI cycle.
Yeah,
I don't think many people do.
No one wants that.
It took them ages to get proper MSP DisplayPort. I think the HD stuff still isn't quite properly implemented. The chances of getting custom fonts, I mean, you might as well take a whiz in the wind. it's unlikely to happen.
Yeah. Do you remember the talk of Orca and their HD system? This is slightly before they got ransomware or didn't or whatever.
They took it to a trade show, didn't they? They had the CNC cases in a little display case.
It was in the little display cases, wasn't it? Because there were several types, I think, as well. It's weird. Well, if trying to go flying tomorrow, and if I do, I will be doing analog tomorrow. Just because there's still nothing wrong with it, and it still works, and I can't be bothered to rip it out of my perfectly good plane that I want to fly tomorrow. Just for that.
Did you notice any of the upscale goodness? Because you know, I did notice like there was quite a bit of breakup regarding the rapid fire in your HDOs, in your what are they called?
HD zeros.
That's it. Yeah, dimension. Sorry, hang on.
There is. You can't find
the dementia. I can't find the dementia there. Both.
There you go.
There we are. Let's play dementia.
Clearly got dementia.
What was the question again? Was it about? Was there a problem with breakup? Was it?
Yeah, it seemed like the DVR was really good quality, but what you were seeing was a bit different.
No, not really. It's been really bad in the house for a good few years now, since sort of 5.8 Wi-Fi has taken off. Flying around the house has been increasingly dodgy and gives really bad video. Outside is no problem. If I fly analog outside in the same quad, I can go for yonks, but it really does hit the interference. I'm sort of trying all sorts of weird channels to get over it. I think that one was on like A7 or something bizarre, which I'd come up with. But Wi-Fi seems to work on sort of pushing out at different times. So this is perfectly clear, and then suddenly you've got this whole bunch of stuff come along, and it's like, oh no, it's wiped me out again. And you can see those constant lines. That's definitely the interference as opposed to sort of breakup.
Yeah, it's not fun.
See quite a lot.
Are you excited about the Raspberry Pi 5 for your, open HD?
Not especially. It's I took a quick look at the videos today, and it seems like it's like, oh yeah, that's a bit better, like, twice as fast and stuff. And I didn't see. No, I didn't look perhaps hard enough to like that. Does it have hardware H.265 decoding or encoding?
Well,
and stuff
yeah,
like
but
that?
it's all Broadcom, isn't it? And they don't document any of their stuff, so the drivers are all reverse engineered and take a really long time to appear.
So probably not much use there. And of course, the critical side on stuff like OpenHD is the stuff in the air, because you can have something like much more powerful on the ground, like a Linux machine quite happily, and that will decode things brilliantly. But it depends what's up in the air and what's encoding and sending back again to how it does it. So I don't think that really moves things on much. It certainly doesn't move it into the H.265 stuff. That's some of the other SBCs can do.
Did you see the SBC that Mario FPV was talking about? He's been on this open IPC kick for quite a while now, and he located an all-in-one single board computer that did the video decode, and you could connect a display directly to. And these appear to be going for like 15 quid on AliExpress.
I haven't seen that one. I saw that he put out a thing saying that the OpenIPC developers were looking to make a sort of all-in-one box that they wanted to sell, and we're going to shove some sort of OSD potential on there. So it looks like that thing's still moving along. It's certainly an interesting project there, because you can get. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you can tell it's a VGA
decoding end.
Yeah, so this is the goggles end, basically. It takes 12-volt power for barrel jack, which will be familiar to lots of us, so no soldering on BECs and things. It's got a SATA port. There's a VGA port. There's an HDMI out. It looks like RJ45 for Ethernet and a couple of USB 2 ports. Potentially an LVDS for an onboard TFT there as well. And the important bit is the price. It's £14.60 all up. So you might need something to boot it off. That could be a USB flash drive, or it could be something that goes in the SATA port. Maybe there's an NVMe attachment or a other kind of NVRAM. But it looks pretty good. It's a high silicon chipset. It's one of these things that's designed for these all-in-one security systems, and it's just for playing video streams. So it's got H.265 plus, it says. I don't know what that means, but presumably the powerful end of H.265 is supported. It will render stuff up to 4K. It'll run 5 megabit streams, which is enough to cope with the kind of over-air that OpenHD is doing, I guess. Yeah, seems pretty good. Audio compression and everything all included. Yeah, and here's the plugs, so network interfaces, 1 channel of VGA output if you need that, an HDMI output. You've got your audio, a hardwired network, 2 hardwired USB ports, 1 SATA port, and 12 volt 2 amp power supply. It takes under 10 watts, so that's pulling a fair bit. It's kind of 800 milliamps at 12 volts, I guess. It's not too bad at all. So that could be a way to go to build a module.
Could be. It would be wonderful if all these interesting open source, or some are open source, some not, as OpenHD is the obvious one, OpenIPC is the other, and there's still things like Ruby HD, all trying to do quite similar things, although OpenIPC is quite a bit more just vague, let's video stream anything. If they could sort of come together and put their code in a way that's like, oh, we could modularize and use bits here and bits there and watch your hardware, and we can just instantly build the right thing for you. It'd be good.
Yeah, they need an integrator to turn this into a real product, because unless you're a solderer and have what's maybe quite a large 3D printer and a lot of time on your hands to get it just right, you're going to be spending a while getting this together. And it's going to make that Snell module look tiny.
Yeah.
Oh,
CMOS
it's
battery.
got a little baby battery on there, isn't that sweet?
CMOS battery. So it's got real-time clock as well if you want to date stamp your DVR.
I know. VGA though, I mean, who's using VGA?
Well, I mean, you could snap off the VGA, you could flatten the CMOS battery, you could rip the RJ45 off and end up with something that's a wee bit smaller. USB is probably useful to have. Obviously, you need the DC jack, you need the HDMI. I think with a small amount of hacking, you could get this board down to something that's a wee bit flatter. It doesn't have quite so many bulky ports on it. I mean, that VGA, you've got an HDMI right there, and it's positively diminutive, maybe an eighth of the size of this giant VGA port. So yeah, I just get the pair of pliers and either desolder it or just hulk out and rip it off.
Oh, through hole though. Good luck with hulking it off.
Yeah.
Look at those ground lugs.
They are big lugs, aren't they? We don't like big lugs.
Got no chance, mate. You're better off just cutting the board with a Dremel.
Anyway, so this is, if you don't mind it being a bit of a chunkster, maybe, Curry was talking about having big kind of old box goggles. This is something that would, maybe fit on a big old box goggle. So there's that. And at 14 quid, like, you can take a punt, can't you? Even if you pay VAT on top of that, it's under 20 quid to see what happens. I think this guy's free shipping as well. Let's go up to the top again. Give me a break. Yeah. It's scrolling. Yeah. 14 and free shipping estimated by October the 20th. Not too shabby.
Nice.
Not too shabby.
Has anyone used this in a aircraft though?
Yeah, one of the reasons. I mean, I got this link from Mario's video, and he preceded this by showing. Let me just switch into that as well. Cut the audio on this, and he was showing it with OpenIPC booting off of it, So I'm assuming that that means it works. So blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a board. Thank you. There's a tool. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Blah, blah, blah. Plug in FTDI adapter, something, something. Load something up onto NVRAM, I'm guessing. Messing around, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we can all read tutorials in our own free time. And it kind of gets to the end, and he's running OpenIPC on it with a, the video output there. So, yeah, you can do it. It's usable, but you need to go the OpenIPC route, which means your camera has got to be one of the select few that's supported by OpenIPC. That whole project is very much like Tinker Toy right now. It's not a real thing. Also, notice he hasn't connected a camera. Oh, wait, what's this at the end? Oh, he has got a camera on it. There we are. So, it appears to be working, and he's got like a 3 meg stream there. There's a wee bit of corruption on the stream, but it's working. There are slices. Let's remove them. He says he's going to fix the corruption now as well. It's not bad, no. And you're paying sort of 15 or 20 quid for each end of the connection, which it feels a lot more like, let's go back to using old security cameras because they're available and everyone can afford them. Everyone can find somewhere that buys the DJI system, but it costs an arm and a leg, and it's like 10% the cost of a full DJI setup to get both ends done. It's very affordable. Feels democratizing.
I'm falling so far behind on like general stuff. Like OpenHD, my plan was to upgrade to the new version and upgrade iNav, but I just haven't had time or the weather to do it.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going out tomorrow is because I had like a review thing that I wanted to finish off. But yeah, days to fly becoming less and less. I do like flying little quads, and I can just go down my local woods and crash them into trees, which is a lot easier than having to. Is the weather going to be good enough? Am I going to have to be able to drive to that field? Will I launch it? And will the man in the next field shout at me, scaring the people in the sunflower fields?
Building rinky-dink stuff like this that I could just fly anywhere with the little Walk Snail BTX. Although this one did fly like absolute garbage, so this is getting rebuilt. And I just ordered a Baby 8 Pro V2 frame, which is like a little 3-inch, but in the style of like a regular freestyle quad rather than this weird ultralight that has terrible resonance issues. It just jiggles and it's terrible. I'm running the Sunny Sky 1106s, which are notoriously like incredibly notchy and noisy, but it has been very difficult to tune. I don't really enjoy trying to fight with it. So that's getting a rebuild.
Just managed to get it out all this week. We had a half decent day Monday, and then that was it. Fingers crossed tomorrow.
I can't remember. I don't think I did. I think I flew a couple of packs last week, but not this week. It's been busy. I built put the GPS in the thingy. I'm completely blanking on the guy's name. Come on, Superfly. I finally put his frame together, and I've got a GPS in it, and I've got M10 GPS units that have all arrived from AliExpress and have been sitting around. And I thought, I'll install a couple of those. And the hype is real, guys. Compared to the M8 units, I'm getting a fix indoors. I'm getting like 19 satellites indoors. I used to get 5 at most, it's pretty incredible. Quite happy with it.
No way.
Yeah.
You're kidding. How much are they a piece? And are they quite big?
It depends who you buy it from. You can get some of them on AliExpress for about £10 each. If you get like the rebranded ones from HGLRC or iFlight, then you might pay 20 or 25 quid. It depends. If you look for, you remember there was a BN 220 with Betian. So they've got the same range, their same physical dimensions. So you've got the 180, the 220, and then the 880. But they've changed the letters. So the old ones were BN to 180, BN 220, BN 880. The new ones are BE. So you've got BE 180, BE 220, BE 880, and those are all different antenna sizes, but with a new M10 chip. And yeah, it seems to have a lot more sensitivity, and so that means you're locking satellites, you're getting more of them much quicker. Which is nice.
And have you tested those with interference? Because digital was always quite bad for knocking GPSs out.
Yeah, it's just been desk tested so far, so I've got to give it a go and actually take them out. Like I said, I haven't been doing much flying outdoors, but I've got one that's very small, that's like a 12 mil antenna. So I'm going to put that on a park flyer and take that round. Basically rebuild this little 3-inch onto that baby ape frame that I was talking about, and then put a tiny GPS on that. I might even get one of these 220 models on it, but take it out and see how it fares. Unfortunately, while I've got the great GPSs on like new 5 inches, which is, it's getting loads of satellite. This is the one that's getting 19 sats indoors. I can't fly like a 6S quad around my park, a 6S 5-inch. It's incredibly loud and incredibly dangerous, and there's not enough space for it. So I've got to find another solution. I haven't really gone out into the woods this year. Like previous years, I'd just disappear into the woods for half a day and go fly. Just haven't had time to do it.
I see. That's kind of lit a fire under me, being like, ooh, with the new GPS modules, because I did resolder my iNav board for my AR wing, so might have a little cut it open and have a little bit of an upgrade.
It's worth a punt.
If it is as good as you say it is.
They definitely changed in performance, because I remember struggling so hard, and a lot of the time I was going to fly and use GPS and it just wouldn't get a lock. I'd just, find an old battery and I'd be like, right, I landed at 3.7 and I'll plug the old battery in to this quad, the one with GPS, and sort of wait for it to get a lock on the old battery and then warm start it on the fresh battery and fly. And it would just sit there for like 5 minutes doing absolutely FA. And it seems a lot better now.
Wow, man. Oh.
Good. Yeah, I used to, when I was testing indoors and it wasn't working, it's like, oh, is this working? How do I do it without? And I had to put these blinds up here, and I had to angle the blinds and then put the GPS receiver on the edge of the blind, so it's kind of pointing out the window at an angle, and then try and lay enough cable through so I can just get some stats from it to see if it's actually working or not.
Well, I've done that. Put the plane out the window in the hope to just get a few messages back and forth and to know it is actually working.
Just get that fresh almanac goodness on so you can go out and fly and you won't be standing in a field waiting and waiting.
How's those beers, Curry? Have you got many left?
This is the last one.
Is the spirit of innovation filling you, Curry? Can you feel the ideas bubbling to the surface?
It's the taste of the jizz of Elon Musk. That's Amber Nexter.
That's not a recommendation at all, actually. I think we should just avoid that like the plague.
Not really.
No. iNav 7.0, Caroline sent us this little video of VTOL, the T1 VTOL.
There's been a few of those VTOLs recently, haven't there?
Yeah. This is interesting, though, because if you wanted to VTOL before this time, it was Ardu Pilot or nothing. So the fact iNav have come around to it is quite a step forward, because if you've ever had to play with Ardu Pilot, coming into it from something which is fairly user-friendly in comparison, like Betaflight or iNav, it's just like, what is going on? Why is there a spreadsheet in this thing? Why does it keep saying my compass is crazy all the time? I don't understand it.
And while iNav doesn't really allow you to do sophisticated tuning, at least you've got kind of some tuning. I think the PID loop on RG Pilot, isn't it like a 1K PID loop or something, or even slower? It's just like really doesn't care about flight performance. That's someone else's problem.
It's hard to say. You just have to look for all these different weird setting things and try and do. Yeah, it's like the actual tuning is the least part of it. The part about getting it into a place where it will actually arm itself and decide there's not a problem with something.
Not murder anyone that's standing near it.
Terrible.
It's running 20-inch props or something.
That's
Jack,
painful.
What didn't your mate Oscar drop a review recently of a very affordable VTOL? I think I saw that. What was Oscar's latest?
I have no idea about this.
That is the. I can tell you what it is because
Manta VTOL, and apparently this was like $140.
I think that is the not ready to fly one.
Yeah, the RTF was like 200, but that is small money for a VTOL.
I tried to get. I saw this on Banggood, and Banggood kept offering me things to review, like here is a car, here is a plane, here is a helicopter. I was like, can I have this? This looks interesting. It's a VTOL plane. I think that's more interesting. And first it's like, oh, we can't ship that to you, and then it's like, oh, right now we can't give any samples of this away. So
the plug and play version is 136 quid. So that gives you everything except the flight controller. Chuck in the flight controller, ESC and GPS, and then it's 200. So because they're going to give you some rando, unbranded, God knows who made it, flight controller, and the same with the GPS, I'd probably go for just getting the 136 quid one and reckoning that for £70 you can find.
Fimi have got quite a good reputation. They're one of the few companies that bought out quads that are on the sort of level that DJI could do. I think Andy RC reviewed a bunch of their stuff. I know Caroline had one for a while as well, and they seem pretty good. So I was thinking the quality of this might be all right, but I haven't.
They did make the point that in his review he said, well, there's a plug for a GPS with 2 extra wires for I2C for the magnetometer, and the GPS they've installed doesn't have a magnetometer, which you kind of need if you're doing iNav as a multi-rotor. So you're not going to be able to get all the autonomous stuff on this. So you probably, it does look like you should probably do your own.
But it's not running iNav, is it? It's running a type of RD pilot on that particular one. That's Mission Planner.
Right there.
Yeah.
You still want a mag for heading, don't you, with a multi-rotor?
Ideally, but it's both a multi-rotor and fixed wing. So the fixed wing can obviously derive the direction from going forward. And I think even on RD Pilot, you don't have to have a compass for flying fixed wing. It's just the fact when it then stops and goes into multi-rotor mode, it doesn't really know which way it's facing. But maybe it's just a case, just land, damn it.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess so long as you're not planning on doing any precision stuff, you should be A-okay. It still looks like kind of a deal. So
weird ass radio.
Getting a lot.
I thought so.
There's something cool about the multi-rotor takeoff and then just the zoom when you flip into wing mode.
It's FWBA mode.
What does that mean?
It means something else. I can't remember. It's some sort of there's several like stabilized flight modes in RD Pilot. I don't think I've actually flown a plane in RD Pilot. I tried it out on a quad. One of my friends used to fly it all the time, and I used to joke that his OSD looked like an Excel spreadsheet because it was just all this stuff everywhere. It's just lines and lines of text. I couldn't work out what was going on.
Oh, one thing they make a point of with this, if you do buy the ready to fly one, then they've done all of the spreadsheet similar stuff for RG Pilot for you, and you get something that's basically sanely configured and ready to go, which is nice.
Yeah, which is why I thought and there's a fly-by-wire B as well, I think, and I don't know the difference. That's why I thought it was quite good, but I can keep asking them because it's like, no, I don't want to review any of your crap you're talking about, but this looks interesting, and I kind of like the idea.
The plane will hold roll and pitch specified by the sticks. Okay, so it's like it doesn't actually. You're not controlling the servos. You're controlling the pitch, and then there's going to be a PID controller that actually moves the servos and hits that pitch that you've told it to do.
Something like that.
Right. Which kind of makes sense, because you don't really want to be worrying like, oh, you know, how much do I need to move the servo? You just want to set the pitch and go. Oh, it's got roll limits as well. So this is not a full manual. It's limited inputs.
Yeah, I suppose it's like the like angle mode in iNav. One could say,
basically.
It's really interesting.
DVR corrupted from this point. That's handy. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of VTOLs, because one of the problems with flying fixed wing is a decent like area to land and take off. The theory is I go out with the Mini Talon tomorrow, and that thing doesn't like to go below about 30 miles an hour. So when you're coming into landing, it's like you need quite a large, big space and try and bleed off some of this speed. But you often end up overshooting fields. But I like the idea of like, okay, we've done our fixed wing flying, and drop. That would be nicer.
Avoids all that messing with wet grass, I guess.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting as well.
So yeah, potentially something that might be coming up if people are starting to really put these out with serious intent. We might be looking at 2024 and the end of this year as, you know, dawn of a lot of VTOL clones all of a sudden. Would be fun.
Dawn of the VTOL.
Oh, Oscar also mentioned that it was a right pig to get the camera installed on this thing, and he ended up hanging his camera on some pretty ugly 3D print that he had to put on the front of the thing. So it's not perfect for FPV, but it can do it.
I think they said on their blurb when I looked at it, it was all set up to put a DJI air unit in there, and he's obviously got walk stand in there, and there's not that much difference, certainly camera wise, is there?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe he just missed the mount, but he was quite critical and said he needed this giant 3D print. It does look like the nose has something going on there, which would hold a camera. Maybe he decided he didn't want to cut the foam, because it does look like it's got a solid nose. And you'd need to cut it to actually get the camera in there. None of them
get one or find out
in the nose.
No, they just talk about being able to put one in there. Huh?
Nag them.
No, I'll try again.
Do it, Curry.
What did they say? I'll read you the
function equipment compartment provides perfect support for analog image transition and high definition image transition. And they've got pictures of the original DJI. They've got pictures of the Cadex Vista what they call Cadex Vista air unit, which is definitely a walk snail one. And then there's the DJI O3. And it looks like you should pop out a midsection of the nose or cut it or something. And then there's a bay in there. But for whatever reason, he didn't do that. I'm not sure.
Previous conversation with Banggood went from their end. Yeah, it can ship to the UK now, but Fibmy Manta has lack of stock at present. I will check if we have more sample. I will hassle them tomorrow. Give me one. Do it. Do you want to talk about Gemini stuff?
Oh, yeah. And one last thing for our video viewers. I'm just going to put a picture of where the camera should go, which is that. So
there. I mean, it looks like there's a hole. Looks can be deceiving, though. It can like look perfectly sensible, and then you open it up. It's like, well, how am I supposed to get in there? What holds it in? I mean, it looks like a big hole. Oh, I've got flashbacks to Kit Kats.
Oh dear, the horror of the horror. Quick, talk about radio protocols.
You may have seen, I haven't watched it, videos about this thing which is from Beta FPV, and it's called something like the Super G receiver transmitter. This is a module with 2 active antennas, which can broadcast on ELRS, and it goes up to 1 watt. And there's this new mode for it called Gemini. And I have to say, I didn't know anything about any of the other modes. As far as I'm concerned with ELRS, I was like, I install my receiver, I install my transmitter, I put it on something like 250 hertz, and I fly, and I can go relatively far away, and my LQ is always about 100. Might drop in the turn, and then it's 100. So I've never thought about anything else. But then I found there's all these other modes, which you probably know quite a lot about, Stephen, but I never really looked at them. So you had stuff like antenna diversity, where you have 2 antennas on a receiver, and depending on the RSSI, it would say, oh, I'll take the packet from this one, or oh, this one's become stronger, I'll take the packet from that one. And then you got this thing called true diversity, which was both antennas work at the same time. And they're like, we'll have this one because that packet's not corrupted and this packet is. And so you have multiple chances to get the same stuff across. Gemini is kind of interesting because instead of just having, okay, we'll send the packet twice, and then you might get it on one of these diversity receivers, it says, oh, we'll send the packet on one frequency on this one, and we'll send the packet on a slightly different frequency on this one. Therefore, if there's RF interference along the way, hopefully one of you will get along. And then I found out there was these other modes, the D modes, or also called deja vu something assistance, diversity assistance, DVDA, which when you put it into D250, it operates internally at 1,000 hertz and sends that one packet like 4 times on different frequencies. So it's like you've got 4 chances to get it, but you're effectively working at 250 hertz. And you can combine that with Gemini. So you're having all these packets flying around different frequencies. So your chances of getting to from one of these to one of the receivers is
so you run like D250, and on the back end that's doing 1,000 perhaps. It's each radio, because this isn't just 2 antennas, this is 2 discrete radios in a single module. That's the cool thing here, right? That it's not like antenna diversity where it's like we've got all the antennas, we'll use the strongest antenna. No, there's 2 radio chains that duplicate everything up through the radio, and so it's going to be sending the packet 4 times out of each channel. So you've got eight packets in the air to ensure that just one of them gets through. That gives you pretty good odds, doesn't it?
And then you've, I love this. It's like doing this, and then you've got 2 discrete receivers saying, okay, what we're going to get one of these, surely we must get one. And the idea being that if you're in a particularly bad RF environment where you might be getting, I think the typical use case here is you're at an FPV race event, loads of people in the air, loads of people have their radios on, everybody's operating at a very high resolution, and there's just stuff going on everywhere. That sort of thing might affect your transmission rate. And obviously for racers, if they're missing a few packets, you know what they're like, it's like, I can feel it in my thumbs or my pinch.
And the race organizer is going to be on them and go, 25 milliwatt only 25 milliwatts. You've got to do everything you can with that 25 milliwatt, right?
Exactly. So there are a lot of very interesting ways of boosting your signal. Now, I've tested this, and I don't think my test for this is particularly robust, but I did it nevertheless because I didn't have anything else, which equals I took my receiver and plugged it in a Beck and stuck it on my desk without putting these in any particular position. Then I stuck this on my radio, put the whole thing at 25 milliwatts, walked down the street. So I put 3 houses in between me and the receiver. And then I looked on my radio telemetry to see what was my RSI on each of the antennas and what was my LQ. And I could take like a single antenna and put it in this position, and my LQ would be somewhere from 20 to 30. And then I tried doing various things to try and get it up. I think one of the problems is that it was built for RF problems as opposed to buildings in the way, blocking the signal problems. But it's still got a better signal, although it's very temperamental. It's the problem is it jumped around quite a lot. And by just moving my radio this much, I got a vast different signal. But on the worst case of like single antenna internal module, albeit the receivers were working diversity, as I said, 20 to 30, no matter what it did. And on the best thing, it could drop as low as 50, but very slight turns would get it up to sort of 60 to 80.
Oh, that's
like that. So it was kind of weird for me, because when I was looking for it going through each one, it was like, well, it seems a bit better, but not brilliantly better. And then I moved up and it seems all right. And then when I looked back at the video and I saw the initial one to like, we're running in Gemini mode using D250, it's like, oh, well, that is quite a difference. In fact, I'm getting a lot more through than, because like I was literally trying to film it with my phone and talking about it, and every 2 seconds the radio was like RF critical and stuff like that, as opposed to when I was using Gemini, it wasn't. So it's quite an interesting system. I'm not sure I'd need it in my flying. If you're in a field and you've got LQ of 100 on a single antenna, then you're not likely to see any benefit. But I am kind of interested, because it turns out that the 14-channel receiver I was trying to test for the past few weeks and haven't been able to go out, and is on my Mini Talon. And what I've done, it's a V-wing, so I've got the antenna stuck either side. That is also a true diversity receiver, so we'll work with this. And I was interested to see what would happen in a turn in a sort of a regular single transmitter antenna versus Gemini, or even in true diversity. Will it overcome the problem of doing the turn and having the nulls? But you should just do that in diversity anyway. That might be a moot point. We will see.
Yeah, I think what we're really getting around here is the problems that you get from things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because when Express LRS connects between the transmitter and the receiver, it's not staying on a single frequency, right? The passphrase that you give Express LRS is actually hashed to produce a table. So you give it a bunch of digits, and just like with Wi-Fi passwords, it uses that to extract other data, and it produces a table that tells it not just which single frequency to go onto, but how to kind of play the melody of all the different frequencies that it jumps around, and it's going to produce a different jump pattern for each passphrase that you give it. So the two lock on, have the same passphrase, and then it's going to have a jump table that it chooses and go up and down frequencies at the same time. Well, if one of those frequencies happens to be on, you're coinciding with a Bluetooth transmission or a Wi-Fi transmission that also does this, because Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are also frequency hopping spread spectrum systems, they're going to knock out that packet. But if you've got two Express LRS radios that have two slightly different frequency hopping schemes, then when Wi-Fi stomps on one of them, or Bluetooth stomps on one of those packets, the other one is going to get through. So it sorts out situations where you've got a radio signal that happens to just jump on the frequency that one of those radios is on, then the other one will get through.
So yeah, typical use case is your busy race event. And I think Jai Smith put a video up many moons ago when he sort of developed this, showing the differentiation on race events, and they had 7 people in the air at a time, and sort of, I think it was always on sort of 90-ish LQ at the worst case, but when you put it on like Gemini, it came up to 100, and of course it gets this full whack there. The other thing this might be useful for is people that are into long range. If you've ever sort of flown long range on fixed wing or whatever, I say fixed wing because you got more time in the air, is what can happen is you're flying along and you can get like the signal looks really dodgy for a while. And this can happen both in video and radio, and then somehow you go further and it comes good again. So it's like there's sort of just patches where you've got like dodgy RF areas, and potentially being, because I think it's 40 hertz difference, isn't it, between the two antennas? If you go into one of these places, it might be that the other antenna is like perfectly fine, nothing's wrong here, and that gets the signal, and you can carry on through without any problem. But yeah, again, like Express LRS keeps developing, at a very high pace. It can do an awful lot now. It's even more impressive than it was before. You're muted,
Stephen.
Oops.
Jinx.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the Bluetooth telemetry outputs. That's one thing I wanted to use. That seems to have been in the wings for a while, but I'm hoping to. I always quite fancied syncing to like an Android phone and using a telemetry viewer to kind of see where I've been flying if I've got GPS on the quad. I've never really got good results putting the unit in a radio, and I think having the Bluetooth come from the Express LRS transmitter would make a ton more sense, because those people kind of design things a bit more carefully than some of the add-in boards you get for OpenTX, I think.
That'd be interesting. And I still have to check out wireless head tracking as well, once I get done with the wired head tracking, which hopefully is tomorrow.
How's that going?
Well, see if I can fly. I mean, everything seems to work on the desk. I just need a half decent day. I've got one more 5200 4S to charge up, which I probably don't need, because my mini tannon should stay in the air for about 40 minutes at least. I think 40 minutes last time I was just like, I've done everything I want to and I've still got extra battery. I'll just land. So I probably don't need the free battery.
Just land at like 3.85 exactly. Storage charge, perfect, done.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they go all right, and hopefully the weather forecast won't change, because what I notice is like, it's like, oh, it's looking good for Tuesday as it was, and then when I checked the weather forecast on Monday, it's like, no, now it's looking bad again. And then Tuesday came and it's like, actually, it wasn't too bad. Maybe I should charge up. I don't know what's worse, is you charge up and then you find out you can't go, and that's annoying, or you don't charge up because the weather forecast is rubbish, and then it turns out to be good after all. So both are equally frustrating.
Yeah, FOMO, or on the other hand, like forcing yourself to go fly because you tell yourself that you're invested all this money in the hobby and you have to go use it, and then you have a miserable time doing it. It's hard to know what to do. It's hard to know.
That's true.
But we should, well, I don't know, we should have a meetup. The trouble is, I think none of us actually wants to go traveling that far. That's the trouble with this tiny little country.
All of us would agree to a meetup in our house or next to our house. So you just
works for
turn
me,
up and we'll do something. Yeah.
I know.
And it gets worse at this season, doesn't it? If it's not too cold and muddy, then the wind's blowing at a horrific gale.
I know.
Well, not where I am usually, but yeah, it's just that the space here is the struggle. I have to kind of go out and go next to some golf course or something, get in the middle of nowhere. Right, we've hit the top of the hour. Everyone's got really quiet. Should we end it?
Can do. It's up to you. I mean, we got a few more minutes.
7 minutes now.
Shall
we see if the chat's been up to anything?
But yeah,
Caroline's quite active in the chat there.
Caroline's managed to squeak in the test we made in the Drac. Interesting results, but not what I expected. I don't know what that means.
She also reckons FIMI is as good as DJI if you're drunk.
Oh, well, that's fair enough.
How many of those Tesla beers do you need to be drunk
to convince that you actually are in a Tesla?
Yeah, you might need more than the pack.
Are they particularly energy dense Tesla beers? Do they pack a punch, or are they just like Carlsberg in a posh bottle?
It seems like reasonably good German beer. It's proper German beer.
Okay.
Not the stuff that's brewed over here, I think. It tastes slightly different. It tastes all right.
Did you I was going to say, did you discover the secret message in the end?
No, I think I've got access to a ultraviolet thing from Pippa's nail thing, which paint nails, some sort of ultraviolet light dries them. So I will go looking for it tomorrow, see if I can figure out what the secret message says.
They'll tell you which of Elon's body fluids are actually included in the beer.
Wayne don't need the beard to feel like he's in a Tesla. No, I could go sit in my one outside in the driveway instead. That would work.
True.
I know. Hopefully,
Still
Pippa
upset,
isn't
Jack.
totally upset with me after you just went, here, look at this. She said she didn't want to see
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I know. When she says that, it's just encouragement for me to show her. Look, it's Jack's bum.
Oh, God. I already worry that I'm hated as it is at your house.
You realise now I've got that image. I might just go to my spreadsheet shop and see what can be done with it.
It won't. No terms of service will ever sign off on that.
No, you
I
can't.
can get Sophie vectorize it in
Yeah,
a
I think
Adobe
we might be able to get
Illustrator,
around
and
it,
that's
Jack.
okay.
If we make it so that it's not clearly a Kit Kat, then it's probably acceptable.
If we say generic wafer chocolate written on it instead, yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah. How much trouble I'm in. Do you want to see us out on that note?
Who was that directed to?
Who, me?
You,
Who?
Stephen.
Stephen.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this talk of VTOLs, Kit Kat insertion, and radio protocols. Thank you to our wonderful Patreons. Please, to continue with this wonderful train wreck that we've got, please become a Patreon, donate, keep the lights on, keep the website up, keep the little studio subscription here running. Thank you very much to everyone who does. You have been joined tonight by CurryKitten.
Sorry? Full title?
Everyone's favourite, CurryKitten.
Goodbye.
That's part of his contract. And also the marvellous, ever-present Jack, keeper of the Kit Kats. Thank you. And good night.
And you.
And me, the stupid guy with the moustache who's got quite a nice camera lens. It's a nice bokeh effect, I thought. Seemed to work out okay. I'm happy with it anyway.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment.
Like, subscribe, hang in there. Cheers. Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.